struggled or have been really worried about having a very difficult conversation with one of your team members as a leader? This is a issue or a topic that many people struggle with. And if you are struggling with this, you are not alone. This happens to the best of us. And in this video, I'm going to give you the opportunity to ask me any questions as it relates to these very hard conversations that we oftentimes have as leaders. Now, I want to preface this by saying that this is something that people do not teach that much. And the reason why I say that is because I have been in various leadership roles over the past 20 years as a director, as a manager, and as a C suite executive. And I have personally seen this as one of the biggest issues that happen with leaders is that they do not know how to have these very hard conversations. And I want to be able to be a resource for you to help you so that you don't have to struggle with these conversations as much. Because as a leader, guess what? You're going to have these difficult conversations, whether you like it or not, you're going to have it. Now, this is a live video, and the fact that you're watching this portion of it means you're watching the replay. So I'm glad that you're here, and welcome, welcome, friend. I appreciate you stopping by the channel today. There's typically a point in time on YouTube where the audience will join the conversation. Therefore, if you can give me just a few moments, I can say hello to everyone. We'll go right into your questions and answers. Feel free to ask me any questions, especially if you're watching the replay in the description below or in the actual comments below, and I will reply to your question and give you some insights. If you've had a hard conversation, maybe you're planning for a difficult conversation, you don't have to put any sensitive information in terms of names and etc. But you can just give me the scenario and I'll give you some insight on that. Now, I have personally been in a lot of difficult conversations, and even though this is a Q&A, I will share with you any guidance that I have. So you definitely want to watch this video until the end to get at least something to work with when you're having these hard conversations. I I've had them, and I've been in hard conversations as a C-suite and as a director and as a manager. And I've also been in hard conversations working with congressional leaders on the national level here in the United States of America and on the local level here in the Sunshine State of Florida. And they happen. Sometimes you know you're going to have a difficult conversation, and sometimes you don't know you're going to have a difficult conversation. It just turns in that direction. And I want to make sure you're prepared for that. There's a couple things that come up when, let's say, you know you're going to have a difficult conversation. Most of the time, as the leader, you're the person that is going to be the initiator of the difficult conversation. So, how do you do that? What are some strategies that can help you to have a difficult conversation, but to still make it a conversation that is very productive? The first strategy I would share with you when you know you're going to have a difficult conversation with a team member, an employee, a business associate, etc., is to think about what is the main issue. Why do I say what is the main issue? I have found oftentimes as leaders, when we are having a difficult conversation with someone, there's probably multiple things that are going on. There's probably multiple things that we're talking about, we're thinking about that is an issue. But narrow it down to one, because when you're having a hard conversation, there's one thing you're going to talk about, right? And I appreciate you all for joining today. Welcome, welcome. If you have any questions as it relates to having difficult conversations, how do you do it as a leader? How can you have a difficult conversation to make it a good conversation? Let me know in the comments below and let me know what part of the big, beautiful world you all are joining from today. I want to say hello to Abram P2222. Good morning, friend. Hope you're doing well today. Let me know what part of big, beautiful world you are joining from today. And what questions do you have about having a difficult or a hard conversation with somebody? We have, I'm going to say, Shh is the name. There's multiple S's and multiple H's. Number one, welcome from New York. What part of New York are you joining from? I used to live in New York. I lived in the Bronx and I lived in Rochester. So let me know where you're joining from. Abram P2222 is from Texas. Abram, what part of Texas are you joining from, friend? I used to live in Houston. I have traveled to San Antonio and have traveled to Dallas, also in Galveston. So let me know what part of the world you all are joining from today, and what are some questions you have about having hard and difficult conversations as a leader. Let me know in the comments below. So let's talk about them. Let's make your hard conversations not so difficult. So we have one is from Staten Island. Okay, fantastic. Welcome, welcome, friend. Glad you're here today. As I mentioned, hard conversations, this is something that I have found over the past 20 years that leaders are truly not taught how to do. And it's so much so that I'm launching a podcast either at the end of this year or early next year. I'm specifically going to be working and contacting people that are in leadership roles to talk about how to have hard conversations. This is something I see a lot of leaders struggle with. And if you struggle with this, let me know in the comments below and let's talk about it. And I'll give you some strategies today to help you with that. We have Abraham P2222 says Lubbock, and I'm from California but grew up in San Antonio now, work in Lubbock. Okay, fantastic. Awesome. That's very good to hear. And I used to live in California. I lived in Sacramento, California. I've traveled to Silicon Valley, but I lived in Sacramento for a little bit. I wish I would have made it a little further down south of California, besides flying into or leaving LAX, but which is the airport there. But yeah, let me know what part of California you're joining from. All right. So as I mentioned, leaders struggle with difficult conversations. So how can we make your difficult conversation easier? And if you like this information so far, definitely give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. This is what I talk about. I am here to help you communicate confidently under pressure. And if you are having a difficult conversation, friend, you're under pressure for sure. So this is the best place for you if you are trying to be a leader that is in these type of roles. Now, how can we make this conversation a little bit not as hard for you? Before I do that, let me say hello to PHW Gorilla. Welcome, friend. Hope you're doing well today. Let me know where you're joining from today. Now, these hard conversations, they happen. They happen often. One of the things I found to be very successful to help you not have a hard conversation is to narrow it down to one. What's the issue? What's the main issue you need to deal with? As I was mentioning earlier before we had people join the live today, is that oftentimes when you're in a leadership role, what happens is that there's multiple things that are an issue when you're having a difficult conversation. Typically, as leaders, we try to address as much as we can on the fly or when the moment actually happens, but sometimes we don't have the ability to do that. And what happens oftentimes is we come up and we say, well, this is wrong, and that is wrong, and this is wrong. I found that if you can narrow it down to just one thing, one topic, it will help you out tremendously when you're having a difficult conversation with a teacher, with a professor, or etc. Let me see what's going on in the chat. Sorry, there's like an accident here, so I'm trying to be with you all and be careful at the same time. All right, we have I am my win. Welcome. Good morning, friend. How you doing today? Let me know what part of Big Beautiful World you all are joining from today. Let me know. All right, so PHW Gorilla is I'm a superintendent. Oh wow, that's fantastic. Well, I appreciate you joining. PHW Gorilla. This is a great channel. If you'd like to subscribe, you're welcome to take a look at videos I have on my live tab. This is the channel for you because as a superintendent, you deal with a lot. I know you deal with a lot. I know you deal with a lot of hard conversations. And I have so many videos here that will help you as a superintendent. I know you're already at a very high level, and that's who I communicate with specifically. But definitely spend some time on my channel. You're welcome to subscribe. You'll learn a lot of great information in terms of how to really elevate yourself as a leader. Being a superintendent, you're in a tremendous leadership role, and I appreciate you. I feel like all of you all should get raises. That's my very humble opinion because you all do so much for the community. But that's just me talking to you personally. All right, but I appreciate you being here. All right, so we have Pankaj Singh. Welcome, friend. Welcome back. Hope you're doing well. PHW Gorilla says, I understand. Abraham P2222 says, I am a safety hat at the world's #1 producer in corn flour, period, in the world. I had to let them know about drug use up here. One is not tolerated, and we do hair follicle tests that go back 9 months, and it was hard to talk about that. Really? So that is a very difficult conversation. Abraham P222, I appreciate you mentioned that. Let me know what are some strategies that you use in that conversation in the next couple minutes that I have with you all. Let me know. This is something that is so, as I mentioned, leaders struggle with this. I've been in senior leadership roles. I've interacted with congressional leaders over the past 20 years, and people really do struggle with hard conversations. What Abraham P222 just mentioned, P2222 mentioned, that's a difficult conversation. That is a difficult conversation because you're having to do testing to make sure that people are not taking any drugs. But then on top of that, you have to talk to them about it. And I'm sure there may have been a situation where somebody was taking drugs, right? Possibly. And you have to have that conversation, because then that more than likely will end in something a little bit different for them. So let me know what happened or what other strategies you use in that, because that is a difficult conversation. All right, we have Brendino P. Welcome, welcome. Hope you're doing well today. Brandino P says she has a news reporter's voice. That's just funny you said that, because somebody else actually mentioned that to me yesterday and said I sound like I was a news anchor, but I'm not. I'm a public speaker. I've been trained as a public speaker for over 20 years, and I have worked very, very hard to work on my voice. PHW Gorilla says I subbed. Well, thank you, friend. I appreciate you for subscribing. And if there's any topics that you all have or have been experiencing as leaders that you're struggling with, let me know in the comments below, or let me know on any of the videos that you watch on my channel. I will do a video just for you, whether it be a live video or a pre-recorded video, and I will give you a shout out on my communities tab so you know when I release that video. But I'm really here to help you. I really believe that people become great by how they communicate. And my mission here on this earth is to help to unlock the greatness within you by helping you to learn these advanced communication strategies that will help you to stand out from everybody else in your field. All right, so we have Abraham P2222. Excuse me, says I just subbed and like, well, thank you. I appreciate that, friend. Thank you so much. PHW Gorilla says leader and a boss are two different things. Yes, they are completely two different things. And you've been in roles where you have to be a mix of both. I would say it depends on the situation and what's going on, but leaders are really the individuals that are inspiring their teams to go to that next level. That are leading something much bigger than themselves. A boss is somebody that's just going to tell you what to do, and there's times when you have to use a mix of both depending on the situation that's going on, but leadership is always incredibly important. Abraham P2222 says, I try to give healthy tips on other avenues to deal with staying up other than drugs. Exactly. The long term effects, and you will lose a great job over a drug, ultimately is going to ruin your whole. Yes, absolutely. So yes, drugs are definitely, it can take, I've seen it so many times, friends, and it's this is not necessary. Most of us as leaders, we know this, but a lot of times we may work with team members that may be under some form of substance abuse, and we find out about it, and we have to have that conversation with them about it. And so I really appreciate you, Abraham P2222, for talking about this, because this is a hard conversation. I will say this, Abraham P2222, did anybody teach you how to have this conversation? Probably not. They did not, because it's just hard. How do we do this and make it to where it's not so hard to have this conversation, but make it productive? Now, what Abraham P2222 said is a great way to have a difficult conversation, but to turn it around and make it positive. And that's one of the things that I like to focus on with the individuals I have difficult conversations with, or have had difficult conversations with as a C-suite, is to focus on the one thing. What's the main issue we need to focus on today? What is the main issue? And then your tone of voice is critically important in terms of how you have a conversation with somebody. Let me give an example. If you start the conversation off in a way where you are saying, this is, we've been having some problems with this. This is wrong. That is wrong. This is wrong. If your tone of voice is in that very, I would say, more of a argumentative type of tone of voice, people are they're not going to receive what you're saying very well. However, this is what I do for difficult conversations. This is specifically what I do. When I'm having a difficult conversation with someone, I don't start off with, we're having a meeting to discuss you doing something incorrectly. I don't do that. Believe it or not, I actually start the meeting by saying, how are things going for you? How are things going for you in this particular role? What are some challenges that you're facing right now? And I have found that if the person you're speaking with wants to talk, they may talk, because you're asking them a question specifically about a challenge or what challenges that they are actually facing right now. And I have found, believe it or not, majority of the times when you ask someone, what challenges are you facing right now? They will sometimes tell you exactly what it is that you need to talk to them about. I have seen it happen time and time again. They may say, "Oh, I'm struggling with this or I'm struggling with that." Sometimes they'll say it, sometimes they will not. And the next thing I say to an individual I'm having a hard conversation with, outside of how are things going, what are you doing, how are things, and let them talk about their challenges, I will go in and say, I have found that sometimes, excuse me, a little under the weather. But I would tell them I have found that sometimes, or I've noticed recently that something has changed in you. And I wanted to check in with you to see how things are going. And then sometimes the person will actually say, you know what, I've been having a problem with this, or I have this personal thing going on, I have this personal situation going on, and etc. So it's very, very good for you to have the conversation in that way. Many times I found as leaders, because this is not something we're actually trained to do, we're trained to just say, this is the problem, this is the issue, this is how we solve it, we're going to put you on a PIP or something like that. And PIP, for those of you who don't know, most of you leaders probably do know, is that it's a performance improvement plan, or some type of performance improvement plan, depending on what your organization calls it. But most of us know it as a PIP. And we go into our PIP. This is how much time you have to resolve the issue, and then etc. And that's it. Well, you don't necessarily want to do it that way. I've found that there's just a better way to have it. And when I've had those candid conversations with people and asked them what's going on, how are things, it gives me insight in terms of what's going on with them. So when I talk to them about whatever the issue is or the difficult conversation, then I am in a better position to say what I need to say in a way that will make sense to them. I would say, I understand you're having some challenges. This is what's going on. I've noticed that things have changed with you briefly, or changed with you in this particular aspect of your role. And I wanted to check in with you. These are some of the aspects that we really want you to work on. We'll give you a little bit of time to do that. You can still say everything you would say in a normal conversation. Excuse me, friends, about whatever it is, time frame wise, your PIP, but your tone of voice is critically important in terms of how you are communicating with someone. Now, let me take a look in the chat. I know there's a couple things that are going on there, so let me talk about that on just a moment. Let me see what's going on. Just a second. Okay, so let's see. Abraham P2222 says, let me go back to where I read. No, I'm a leader. I travel the world and go to seminars and talking events for presentations and excellence as well. But that you can, okay, just came back from Sudan earlier this month. Wow, that's amazing. Speaking with world leaders and how we can help world hunger worldwide. Well, Abraham P222, I'm glad that you are here. And yes, absolutely. This is a huge issue, especially for your industry specifically, because you are in that type of field where, I mean, worldwide hunger is something that's an issue for all of us, and we definitely want to make sure we are doing what we can to really help that. And I appreciate you so much for being here and for sharing that you've been speaking also, and you're going to different organizations, different places in different areas of the world. I think that is absolutely commendable, and I appreciate you so much for being here today. Okay, Abraham P2222 says, I've had to learn several languages so we can communicate more efficient when we visit these third world countries. Absolutely. And Abraham also says, yes, before any criticism you engage, then compliment, then bring up the problems with a strategy to fix it. Absolutely. High five, Abraham 2222, because that is exactly what I do. You have to be able to engage before any type of critique. That's fantastic. That is exactly what I teach my clients to do as well. Abraham P222 says, yes, performance improvement plan, either their development or structural change. Absolutely. I appreciate you mentioning that. Everything that Abraham P2222 just said is exactly the way you want to have a difficult conversation. And many times leaders are just not, we're not taught that. We're taught nothing really. We're just taught how to figure it out, or we go based on how we've been communicated with in the past as it relates to that. Aubrey Gentry says, "Good morning, welcome back." Excuse me, friend. I'm sorry, a little under the weather today, but Aubrey Gentry, welcome back. She is a follower, and I appreciate you being here and saying hello and good morning to you too, friend. These are really great strategies as it relates to having those difficult conversations. Now, there are several videos on my live tab where I talk about difficult conversations. You're welcome to take a look at those as well. And for those of you who are new to me and subscribed, I just appreciate you so much for being here and being present. This is really the place for you to have an area where you can just talk about yourself as a leader, share some of your insights and strategies, just as Abraham P2222 mentioned, and as PHW Gorilla also mentioned as well. We need a community where we can do that, where we can have these conversations. And I will say that if since you're new, some of you are very new to me, I go live typically. Sorry, the sun's really bright here. I go live typically Tuesday through Friday in the morning and in the afternoon. And you'll see that happening mostly. I've been live so much on YouTube that YouTube has reached out to me to be a part of their live stream or research panel. I do that because I went live so much that YouTube noticed it. And so this is where I spend my time. I really love engaging with my audience, especially all of you who have been present today. And if you have any questions or any challenges or anything that's came up for you as a leader, let me know in the comments below. People tend to come to me for the hard things, the hard conversations, the hard situations, the very complex things that happen as leaders, but then also too to help elevate you as you communicate as a leader. Your tone of voice, your eye contact, your pacing, what you say, when you say it, how you say it, when you say it, all of those type of strategies will really help you go to that next level as a leader. And even if you are at a point where you're communicating with world leaders, as Abraham P2222 said, there's a different way you communicate, right? There's a different way you communicate. You go to that advanced level, which is why I'm here to support you to do that. I appreciate you all for being here this morning and appreciate the dialogue from all of you as well. Really great insights here. And if you have any questions specifically as it relates to elevating your voice as a public speaker and communicating and etc., and just being able to elevate yourself as a leader, let me know in the comments below. As I mentioned earlier, I would do a video just for you, friend, and give you a shout out in the video and provide you with any insight that I can from over the past 20 years of me being in these very friendly, very contentious situations as a leader. I'm here really to support you on your journey. I hope you all have an amazing day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.